is up? Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's time to get rolling, man. And we've got a lot to talk about today. I'm just going to be honest with you. If you didn't see the title of the show today, it is the CMS Final Rules, or better known as 1,300 plus pages of what the hell is going on in this document. I don't know if you've looked at it, if any of you have tried to read it. It's definitely readable, but there are areas of it, and I would say even specifically the area that we're all most concerned about, the agent and broker compensation section, that definitely has a lot of room for interpretation. I'm going to tell you right now, before we jump into this thing, it's packed full of stuff. There's actually, we're going to go through quite a few rules. So let me start over. CMS has dropped quite a few final rules over the last couple of weeks, I guess, that have affected a few things. I've talked about at least one of them already on the show that we're going to hit on. But before we get started, yesterday I did want to mention that I was hanging out with some friends of mine over at the Bobby Brock Insurance World that are killing it. You guys all know Justin Brock out there. They were demoing some of their cool tools, showing off some things for me. And what did I see in the quick links that they had other than MetaZeus? Teed up, ready to go. So, this show is sponsored by MetaZeus. I'm a big proponent of it. And I just want to throw it out there again, man, that the leaders are using this platform. If you're out there in the Medicare space and you're not using MetaZeus, you're missing the boat. And I would definitely prepare yourself for this AEP because you're probably going to need it. A lot of that's going to be in this. So anyway, CMS has dropped quite a few rules, and we're going to go through a few of them. The first one that I talked about on the show not too long ago, let me just pull it up here on the screen, was the Medicare Advantage and Part D rate announcement. I talked about this, I think it was last week, because they dropped this on the 1st. This one was pretty straightforward. Basically, Medicare Advantage and Part D plans are getting a 3.7% increase in their subsidy next year, which they argue is not enough because their risk score trend says that they need a 3.86% increase in their subsidy. So with that information, and certainly with some of the stress that MA plans are under right now, like I said, a lot of them are posting losses. The illusion through this is that they will likely scale back a lot of benefits because they aren't getting as big of a pay chunk. So that one was dropped April 1st. Pretty simple. And I've theorized before that I feel like Part D plans are going to continue to see some pretty good rate increases as they continue to put caps and reduce some of these subsidy increases. So certainly look for that. We are shaping up for a really chaotic AEP 2025, man, I'm telling you. So the next rule that they dropped, and I missed this one originally, but let me make sure I've got this one for you. And these are all fact sheets. So you can go to cms.gov and you can pull up these fact sheets, which will go through and basically summarize the more lengthier document that they post to the Federal Register. So these are certainly useful to help you kind of quickly get a handle on what's going on. And this one is in regards to short-term limited duration insurance. At least that's the most important piece. It also talks about indemnity products and accepted benefits coverage, but their ruling there is pretty minimal. But if in case you missed this one, this was announced March 28th. And what they are saying is that basically short-term limited duration insurance products, this is your short-term health products. But we don't see these, or actually usually what I see these sold for most of the time is for that 65-year-old who's turning 65 but is on a group plan that he has a younger spouse that is also covered by. These products fit that market really well. And what they have done is they said, hey, they can only be a maximum 90 days now on the benefit with an exception for one additional month, giving them a total of 120 days or 4 months. Used to be you could get up to 12 months, and with some exceptions, up to 36 months or 3 years, right? So this is for your short-term limited duration insurance products. You're going to see these products obviously with United Healthcare or UH1, that Tri-Term Medical, and some of those. You're going to see, I believe, Manhattan Life has some short-term care products in this space, and Allstate, National General. So that's going to affect these, and certainly a lot of those folks, they're afraid these people are dodging the ACA, basically, is what is going on. So they are shortening these products, and this goes into effect September 1st. So starting September 1st, any apps that you might write in this space are going to be under this new rule. So that's a 90-day maximum benefit with 120 day or another month exception to give you a total 120 days. Anybody that you wrote prior to September 1st, they're going to be able to maintain their policy as is. So this is only going to affect new business. The other part of this rule, pretty simple, was they are basically just updating the language in the disclaimer for any fixed indemnity products, hospital indemnity products, for example. They have some updated disclaimer language they want on brochures that will clearly identify this specific product, this hospital indemnity plan, as indemnity coverage, not health insurance. So I have not seen exactly what that statement is, but that's a statement that the carriers will take care of and make sure is included on all the brochures. Not really a big deal there. So those were the first two rules that they dropped. And certainly that short-term limited duration one is not favorable for the consumer. I think everybody would agree with that that's kind of garbage. If you have any comments on the short-term products, if you're selling them and you feel like this is going to affect you, like put it in the comments, like let us know what's going on and your thoughts there, because that is certainly not a great thing. One piece of clarity on this one, this does not apply to short-term care products such as you might find with Guarantee Trust Life or Aetna or Medico or United National Life. Those short-term care products that you would sell to the senior as a good ancillary product to roll or to kind of round out their Medicare Advantage coverage in terms of skilled nursing needs does not affect those products. This is just for the short-term limited duration products where people could be using it as an excuse to get away from the ACA. So I double verified that with a couple of the carriers out there. Hunter Gordy, for example, over at UNL got back to me and confirmed immediately, like, no, we're good. Doesn't affect us, but certainly any of you guys selling that short-term health product, that is going to affect you. And then we have the big daddy, man. I don't know if you guys have looked at this thing. This is the one that I kind of was alluding to, obviously, when you opened the show, but it's 1,327 pages. And most people are concerned about one thing, and that is certainly the agent broker compensation side of it. And I don't blame them. That's the part that's probably gotten the most attention among the broker community. But there are 12 new final rules, basically, in this document. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You probably remember that. Yes, there's 12 rules in this document, including the agent broker compensation rule. So I am going to do my best to not bore you to death, and we are going to get through them, and we will certainly address we'll certainly address the agent broker compensation side, but I want to point out some of these other ones that are also in there that explodes this document to be as large as it is. And we are not going to go, I'm not going to scroll through this ridiculous thing here. I am just pointing out, you can find this on the Federal Register, public-inspection.federalregister.gov. I've also posted in the group at least once. So you should find at least one post from me that has this linked. If you want to check this out, go get you a copy of it and go through it. You can also find the fact sheet as well, which will summarize it a little shorter. And you can pick up some pieces of it. And this includes links to more detailed items and so forth that you can look through. But I have gone through this thing in pretty damn good detail. I've been going through it since the day it dropped. There's a ton of interpretation available to it, again, when you get in the agent compensation area. But just to run through some of the other rules real quick, not related to that one, but that are also included. Number 1 is a rule relating to Part D medication therapy management programs. So now all Part D sponsors, which includes MAPD and PDP plans, they all have to have a medication therapy management program. And these programs are designed to help certain targeted beneficiaries that are covered under Part D drugs to basically optimize their therapeutic conditions for positive outcomes, right? Certainly, I think it's a great thing. They're looking to prevent adverse drug reactions from people that have multiple chronic diseases, and this doctor's prescribing them that doctor's prescribing them that. And those two drugs could counter set the positive outcome they're looking for, have adverse reactions. So they're trying to get away from that. Smart thing to do. But now they're requiring that all Part D sponsors have one, right? And just to give you an example, or actually not an example, but they've actually updated the chronic diseases that people are required to have in order to qualify for medication therapy management. It used to be 5, and now they've doubled it. And every Part D provider has to follow these rules, obviously, and be able to provide medication therapy management to people that have these qualifying diseases, and that is Alzheimer's, bone disease, arthritis, and that includes osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, as well as rheumatoid, chronic congestive heart failure, diabetes, dyslipidemia, end-stage renal disease, of course, HIV and AIDS, hypertension, mental health, and that includes depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, and respiratory disease, which of course is asthma, COPD, and so forth. So if they have any of those 10 chronic diseases, and as the original ruling was that you had to have 3 of those chronic diseases, you had to have symptoms of 3 of them to qualify for medication therapy management. It appears they've removed that language. I didn't see it in there. Maybe they just didn't touch it, but that specific metric wasn't mentioned at all in the update. And then the other piece that they updated to that, pretty simple, is that the maximum number of drugs is now still maintained at 8. They were going to reduce it down to 5. So no change there, but they did expand the chronic diseases. Great for the beneficiary, because now born beneficiaries can qualify for this, and they are updating it to all Part D sponsors. So good rule there, I think. Another rule that they added was access to behavioral health. They are adding a new behavioral health provider specialty to Medicare Advantage network standards. So they're basically adding in what they are calling outpatient behavioral health. That's going to be a category to bill under, basically. And that is now going to include multiple providers across the mental health world. This is another great rule, in my opinion. Marriage and family therapists, mental health counselors, opioid treatment programs, community mental health centers, addiction recovery, etc. And they will also include nurse practitioners, physicians assistants, and clinical nurse specialists who specifically work in addiction recovery. So excellent there that they're broadening that, because that's always been an issue. As a matter of fact, yesterday, this is not a joke. I am up here last night working, and one of our clients texted us. I think he responded to one of our blog emails and just verified, hey, do I have coverage for, he said, psychiatrist or psychology? And I said, yes. As a matter of fact, the Humana plan that you have has access to behavioral health, and they're going to expand it. So excellent thing there. Next one, they added distribution of personal beneficiary data via third-party marketing organizations. This one sounds bad, but it's redundant. The FCC already ruled on this one, and this is just talking about the sharing of beneficiary info. Has to be on a one-to-one basis, and that's going to start, my understanding, obviously, is January 1st. Now, I know it's January 1st from the FCC, and I don't see that it listed in here a specific date on that. I'll go back and check. That may apply to leads that are generated October 1st for January 1 effective dates. That's a good question to maybe write down there. But it certainly will affect January 1 business, because lead vendors will have to only provide leads on a one-to-one basis, right? Whether you're getting it from your FMO, whether you're getting it from a third-party lead vendor, et cetera, et cetera. You're not allowed to share that information. It has to be generated one-to-one. So a few people jumped out on this one, but truthfully, it's just a redundant ruling of what the FCC already announced earlier this year. So, if you're dependent on buying leads to run your business, and I know a lot of you are, and I'm not bagging on that by any means, but your lead costs are probably going to go up significantly next year. I would certainly expect that. The next one they added, and this one was a biggie, is special supplemental benefits for the chronically ill. This one was a big one. They are specifically targeting basically all of the little supplemental benefits that you have in the CSNP, and not even just CSNP plans, but this certainly goes after CSNP plans. And going after them, I shouldn't say is a hard thing, but what they really are getting at, because this one's a long one, so I don't know that we even have time to try to go through just this piece of the rule, but I will summarize it for you. Basically, they are going after all of the supplemental benefits specifically designed for the chronically ill, that they want to make sure that they are definitely designed for the chronically ill, and they want to make sure they're getting utilized. So just to give you an example, what are some of those supplemental benefits? Well, that's stuff like meals, food and produce, transportation. They're looking at transportation specifically for non-medical needs. So not necessarily rides to the doctor or a hospital or emergency, but for non-medical needs. Pest control is under fire. Indoor air quality equipment and services, structural home modifications, social needs benefits. That is access to fitness clubs and so forth, all of those things. Complementary therapies are also in there. Services supported self-direction. So this has to do with services that assist in the establishment of decision-making, like a power of attorney, for example. General supports for the living, which would actually be housing for certain chronically ill people, again, based on certain extinctions and qualifications. So what are they doing? Well, the first thing they're going to do is that by the date, I think it's by, shoot, they don't have the date listed in this one, but by the specific date that MA plans bid their plans to CMS, they have established now a whole bibliography of acceptable evidence that shows that those services are not only beneficial to a chronically ill person, but they have to show that they're being utilized. They do not have a utilization rate established or determined as far as a metric to manage by that I'm seeing, but they are looking for that reporting. They want to know what is the evidence that these benefits are good for the chronically ill, and they're not just fancy sizzle to make your product look hot. And then are they being used actually? Fairly interesting there. So they're really going after the plans and trying to prevent them from creating sizzle selling points, like, pay at the pump gas, stuff like that. So pretty interesting. So you're probably going to see this year, you're going to see a lot of the Medicare Advantage plans peel back a lot of those benefits, because they will have to justify the need to include those benefits in the plan, and even show that, hey, even though we've already justified that we think they're needed, people actually using them. Because if they're not, they're just going to start slashing them. Next one they added was the annual health equity analysis of utilization management policies and procedures. Well, that is a mouthful right there. Basically, they are just reestablishing a utilization management committee and updating the rules of that committee, how they have to, the people that they have to have on staff. So like they're required to have at least one specialized doctor or physician, and then the way that they report. So that one's a fairly simple one. Doesn't necessarily apply to us. They add more reporting stuff, was amendments to Part C and D reporting requirements. Goodness gracious, man. There is so much in this thing. I think I'm just going to peel it off the stage, because you guys might as well just stare at me, because following through on this on the screen would be boring as hell. So the amendments to Part C and D reporting requirements, another big one. So now they are going after more detailed information from the Part D plans, which includes MAPD plans, Part D plan sponsors, to include more information, a broader scope for info that they want to be able to say. And they do not go through all of it. They just say an example. Well, they do say a little bit. Example of increased data collection would be service level data for all initial coverage decisions and plan level appeals, such as rationale for items, services, or diagnostic codes. They are looking to have a better line of sight again for prior authorization utilization management. So they are wanting more. They're basically increasing oversight. They want deeper reporting so that we can make sure that these prior authorization and utilization management practices from providers to clients, or ultimately from MA carrier through providers to clients, are being used properly. So more oversight. Imagine that. Next one, they want to enhance the enrollee's right to appeal an MA plan's decision to terminate coverage for non-hospital provider services. Whew. So they're basically giving more power, thankfully, to the enrollee to give them better appeals. That's actually a fairly straightforward in there, but they're mainly looking for those appeals when they are not given skilled nursing coverage after a hospital stay. So this is actually a really good one for beneficiaries. They are giving them basically a fast track requirement through an appeals process to determine the qualification that SNF stay should be paid for, basically. Changes to approved formulary. This is, I don't know that this is a great one, really. It's okay, I guess. This one here is for Part D sponsors that want to remove a brand name drug from their formulary mid-year and replace it with a lower cost generic. Lower cost to them, at least. May not be lower cost to the beneficiary's health, but certainly lower cost to them. So right now, Part D sponsors can flip drugs mid-year. And they can say, hey, we're tired of paying for this ABC brand drug. We have this XYZ generic that we're going to start using. So we'll start paying for that. And they could basically, flip your drug right in the middle of the year. Now they can still do it. They just have to give you 30 days notice. That was the big update on that one. Not really a big win. That one could be a little more strong to take care of the beneficiary, in my opinion. Next one, they are increasing the percentage of dually eligible managed care enrollees who receive Medicare and Medicaid services from the same organization. Wow, this one's a mouthful too, and also pretty lengthy. So basically, they are going to now include a new integrated care option. So they're coming out apparently with an integrated D-SNP plan. And these are designed to better coordinate Medicare and Medicaid benefits. There's going to be restrictions on who can join certain plans. Some restrictions are, I'll just read this. Some restrictions are being put in place about who can join certain D-SNPs. Basically, you'll need to be enrolled in a specific Medicaid plan that works closely with the D-SNP to join it. This is to make sure your Medicare and Medicaid services are well coordinated. That's verbatim exactly what they said in the document. They are now going to limit plan options. So now if you're a Medicare Advantage carrier, there's only a certain number of D-SNPs that you're allowed to offer in a geographic footprint. I believe they're going after the county. I could be wrong. They might go after a state region. It didn't say what they would define as the region that I could see. I would think it would be by county, but I could be off on that. So now if you're, if you're Humana, UHC, whoever, there's only going to be a certain number of D-SNP plans that you can even offer in a certain target area. They do not want to over confuse, I guess, or overwhelm the D-SNP person. They are also going to change, and this is the big one, how often you can switch plans. So instead of being able to switch your Medicare drug plan only during specific times of the year, if you are eligible for Medicaid or you get help with Medicare costs, like the Part D low-income subsidy, you'll be able to switch once a month. This gives you more flexibility to change plans more frequently if your needs change. So, yeah, you heard it right there. D-SNP clients needing to change their Part Ds will be able to change every month. So, yes, so to outline that really quickly, they replaced the current quarterly special enrollment period with a one-time per month for dual eligible individuals enrolled in the Part D low-income subsidy program to elect a standalone PDP. This creates a new integrated care special election period to allow dually eligible individuals to elect the integrated D-SNP, also on a monthly basis. Limited enrollment in certain D-SNPs to those individuals who are enrolled in an affiliated Medicare managed care organization. Kind of mentioned that. And again, it's going to limit the number of D-SNP plans the carrier can have. So that's going to be a really big shakeup to the D-SNP market for sure. I mean, if you are out there in the D-SNP space, I'd be curious. Is that a benefit? Is that an enhancement? Do you like that better? I would. I don't know that I do. I mean, it's going to be really tough, but it's going to be really tough to keep your business on the books, it sounds like, if you're in the D-SNP space, if they can bounce every month. Like, how is that not going to increase aggressive marketing tactics? If that's the angle that they're going through in some of this, How does that not increase aggressive marketing tactics? I don't know. All right, moving on. For DSNP PPOs, this is a win. They are going to now have a limit on out-of-network cost sharing. So this one's pretty simple and straightforward. Basically, for DSNP PPOs, there's generally been a cost sharing limit for in-network and out-of-network services, obviously out-of-network being higher. Basically, they're passing a rule that says for by 2026, those have to be the same. They have to be in a line. So that's actually going to be a win. It's going to be a win unless it just brings up the in-network cost, I should say. But if it brings down out-of-network to match what in-network's at, that would be good. But if they end up bringing up the floor to meet the ceiling, that would be kind of terrible. So we'll see how that one ends up shaking out. But it sounds like it's going to be for the beneficiaries' benefit. Next one, they're going to standardize the Medicare Advantage risk adjustment data validation appeals process. Wow, that one's long. Basically, this one, now they are making it harder for Medicare Advantage organizations to appeal what they think is an erroneous payment. And they are now going to force them to exhaust 3 levels of appeal process before they can even get to the calculation error appeal process. Pretty simple. So that is 11 of them that I went through super fast. We got one more, the one that you all probably tuned in for, the one that's related to broker compensation, right? I mean, who wouldn't be concerned about whether or not they still have the opportunity to make a living in what is presumably one of the greatest industries on planet Earth? I was certainly concerned when I heard about it. I mean, I was less concerned now that I'm building a different agency that's of a little bit different ilk. And my buddy Justin talks about this, about learning to insulate ourselves from rules like this by creating an LOA type model. LOA models aren't all bad. Like, you have to understand how that operates. And I'll just say this, if you're an agent, if you're a newer agent, you don't really understand the LOA model. The independent broker model obviously allows the carrier to pay you directly. The LOA model assigns that comp to a third party that then pays you. So anytime you're ever looking at an LOA agreement from the carrier side, because you'll see 2 different types of carrier contracts. You'll see the broker contract that includes your commission schedule, your W-9, and your EFT information to pay you. If you don't see those items in your contract, it's probably an LOA contract. That's a good indicator, which means the carrier is now paying someone else that's paying you. So anytime you're seeing that agreement, first question you should ask yourself is, what does the other contract look like? Because there should always be 2 contracts. There's a side lesson for you. Some of y'all may not have been expecting, but anytime you're signing a carrier contract that is LOA, there should be a second contract between you and the payer that's actually paying you. What does that contract look like? That's the one that's important. So moving in, agent broker compensation, man. See, we're the best place to start for you guys on this. All right, let's just say this. Let's start by defining compensation. I think that's the best way to do this, just the way I outlined this. Because there was a lot of information in here. Number one, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything. I am not an attorney. I did talk to an attorney about this document. Their thinking was in line with mine. But I'll tell you, the more I read this document, the more scared I get. But then there's one little saving grace in there that I think is a big key for us. But I picked through it, and I'm just going to share kind of some of my thoughts. But I'm going to make sure you understand all of the updated rules to how they define compensation, because this is a big part of the crux of it. And understanding this might help us understand where they're headed, because I think a lot of us have been making some jumps and some assumptions that they are looking to just completely wreck and wipe out the FMO distribution channel. And I don't truly think that's the fact. I could be wrong. You could call me naive. And while I am the type of guy that doesn't believe that our government currently is in favor of small business of any sort, I feel like they favor their voting pool population too much to all of a sudden wreck it. I mean, so that's kind of my thought there. But anyway, let me define compensation for you. This includes monetary or non-monetary remuneration of any kind relating to the sale, renewal, or services related to a plan or product offered by a Part D sponsor. Fairly simple. What does that include? Well, it includes commissions, bonuses, gifts, prizes, or awards. I wonder if that also means your trophies. It also includes the payment of fees to comply with state appointment laws, training, certification, or testing costs. So that sounds like they are talking about reimbursements that might be made for your appointment fees that you're paying, your AHIP certification, your E&O, things of that nature. Reimbursement for mileage to and from appointments with beneficiaries. So my understanding and the way they're talking about that is they're not trying to prevent you from being able to file a tax deduction for those items, but they're preventing someone else from reimbursing you for those items, right? From saying, hey, here's some extra money because you write so much business and you drive around the neighborhoods. Reimbursements for actual cost associated with beneficiary sales appointments, such as venue rent, snacks, and materials. So if you're out there running events like we do, I can't go to my upline, my broker, Precision Senior Marketing, for example, and say, hey, can you throw me some cash for this event that I'm doing? They're going to take that away. Beginning with contract year 2025 again, any payments made to an agent or broker that are tied to enrollment related to an enrollment in a Part D plan or product, or for services conducted as part of the relationship associated with the enrollment into a Part D plan or product. H is where they start to throw in some vague stuff. That was letter H on all the rules of compensation, for example. That's when they start to get a tad vague, but I'll point out a couple of things that I think are important in that specific statement. It says payments that are made to an agent or broker. That certainly already creates vagueness, but I believe truly I believe they're targeting the guy that writes the app. And then it says tied to an enrollment, related to an enrollment in a Part D plan or product. So, and I believe they're also, they're talking about compensation paid both from the carrier and from an FMO, depending on how your money flows. And this is part of why I don't believe they're looking to wipe out the FMO, because there is language in here that says these rules apply whether or not your money, the agent money, or the compensation is distributed through the FMO paying the agent or the carrier paying the agent. They're saying that both entities have to follow the same guidelines. So the fact that that little piece is in there, and which nobody I don't think has really pointed out, maybe, I don't know, maybe I've overlooked it, but that statement, which is a pretty small statement, leads me to believe that no, they're talking all about the compensation that attacks the agent that writes the business. They don't want us getting extra money as defined in these rules of compensation, other than the commissions. They don't want us to be able to say, well, United Healthcare sponsors events for me so that I can help promote I might be favored. I don't blame them because I probably would be favored to write United Healthcare if they help me pay for events, which they have done. And I love them for that. And that's not the only reason I love them, though. I love them because my number one product that that my clients ask for, utilize, and appreciate. So it seems to be doing the best for my contract or my client book as a whole. So I would say, yeah, I'm a little biased in that regards. But when it comes to presenting products, the client's going to choose what I think or what they think's best for them. Caught me. So there you go. But pretty simple. These are the rules, I think, in that one statement that says, hey, these rules apply whether the money's coming from the carrier or the FMO, leads me to believe they're not looking at wiping out the FMO, because why would they even write that provision in there? But here's a few other things that I think are super important. It says that no provision of a contract with an agent, broker, or other TPMO has a direct or indirect effect of creating an incentive that would reasonably be expected to inhibit an agent or broker's ability to objectively assess or recommend which plan best fits the healthcare needs of a beneficiary. Pretty long way to say that starting next year, there is no contractual provision or no provision allowed in a contract with an agent or broker or TPMO that has a direct or indirect effect of creating incentives. So they're talking about, number one, the Medicare Advantage carrier to the FMO or the TPMO, right? Just because the TPO is not the one right in the business, they can receive incentives and have received incentives. That's where they get a lot of their marketing money to give us as agents, right? They're like, Humana's like, hell, y'all write a lot of business. Here's a bunch of money that y'all can give to your agents to write more business. That's where that incentive train comes from, and they're shutting it down. So they're saying there can be no provision in any contract in that chain of command that might directly or indirectly affect a client's decision or might create bias on the agent's end. Pretty simple. We have, well, I don't want to even say that one yet because that's kind of a good bonus, but we'll get there. Beginning with contract year 2025, Part D sponsors are limited to the compensation amounts outlined in this section. Whew. And then they go through all these admin fees. And this is where I think a lot of the confusion is. And they do talk about admin fees in relation to overrides a little, but not that much. But this is some of the areas that I think where a lot of the fright comes from. And I'll read this one for you. Many commenters expressed their opposition to our proposal because many agents and brokers rely on the payment of administrative fees, sometimes referred to as overrides. This is, I believe, the only time in the entire document, as I remember, and I searched it, that the word override appears as used in this context. It says several times that this may not override this decision, or this rule may not override a previous rule, something like that. But in terms of overrides as compensation that FMOs get, this is the only time it's ever mentioned in the entire document. And it says, many commenters expressed their opposition to our proposal because many agents and brokers rely on the payment of administrative fees, sometimes also referred to as overrides, from an MA organization to their FMO to provide them with quote-unquote free services, such as access to plan comparison and enrollment tools, trainings, as well as contracting and compliance support. The FMOs are able to provide these free services to agents and brokers by negotiating with the MA organizations to pay the FMO the administrative fees associated with the agent or broker's enrollments. So they're saying that, hey, we provide all this free stuff to our agents to help them write more ABC carrier, give us more money. They use that more money to incentivize their agents, and then the agents continue to write more ABC carrier. Fairly simple. And those fees might not always just be in the form of cash money, but obviously used for certain support. It says contracting, compliance support, enrollment tools. There's Sunfire, Connexture, plan comparison tools, etc. Their response: we understand that removing the category of administrative payments, i.e. overrides, would change the current flow of payments from an MA organization to agents and brokers for an enrollment. We believe that by making the full payment directly to the agent and broker, agents and brokers themselves will have the opportunity to decide which services are truly essential and how much those services are worth. And that is one of the statements that I think is freaking people out, because it says blatantly making the full payment directly to the agents and brokers. But I believe they are only targeting a FMO or carrier's ability to supplement us for non-sales related, as they're calling it, activities. I don't know that they're including that payment in the distribution. I could be off, man, on what they're targeting. What they're truly targeting is admin fees. Here it goes again. This is where, again, I think a lot of the fear is. To memorialize this updated policy, we are finalizing our policy to incorporate administrative payments, as they like to use, currently described at 422.22E1. And if you look at that document, I had that up at one point. Let me pull that up for you, because this is something that definitely helped me kind of wrap some of my head around it. And this is fairly important, I think, this piece here. They reference a bunch of other, they also reference two other acts, the Balanced Budget Act of 2018, and there was another one I can't remember right now that was listed on there. E1, this is payments. Administrative payments include payments for services, and this is why I don't think they're going after overrides. Again, I could be wrong. Payments made for services other than enrollment of beneficiaries. For example, training, customer service, agent recruitment. That one's kind of, there you go. Operational overhead or assistance with the completion of HRAs must not exceed the value of those services in the marketplace. So HRAs was one that they referenced in the document specifically, and they defined what they thought an HRA should cost as a value in the marketplace, right? Like, what does it really cost someone, or should cost, to do that task, right? For someone to sit and ask someone a handful of health questions that are on an HRA. Like, what is the value of that task? And they said $12.50. However, carriers are paying $50, $75, $125, $225 some carriers were paying in some parts of the nation. So with that said, they're like, that's no good. Well, this definition that I'm pulling, and I'll share this for you real quick. This comes off of this site here, Code of Federal Regulations. So if you're looking through the Federal Register document, right, the big one, the 1,327 pages, you will see that it references a lot of numbers that for a second look like a dollar figure, but it's another weird little symbol in front of the number, and then it'll have like 422.2274E1 parentheses, whatever, right? They're citing other rules. You can click on it. It's live in that PDF, and it'll take you to that area, as I remember. Some of them are. Some of them you might have to copy. And that's where I found this right here, where it says, because this is what it points to right here. Payments other than compensation. These are your admin payments. And it says payment made for services other than enrollment of beneficiaries, right? So the administrative payments would fall under that definition by this. Certainly overrides is not in there, but if they believe that maybe that agent recruitment one, and I don't think that's what it's for. I think they're talking about an incentive or a cost or expense used like for an event to go recruit agents, something like that. And I could be off on their definitions. These are definitely still some areas where lawyers can argue the shit out of this. Let's be honest. But they're basically saying that, hey, they can't have, this is the statement I was talking about, the 1250. They have to be at or below what those values appear in the marketplace. So they said that HRAs, in their opinion, HRAs were only worth $12.50. So they are wiping out HRAs, it seems like. Those are probably going away altogether. Either that or we're going to get $12.50 maybe for them. I don't know. I don't think so. My understanding is they're probably just going away altogether. Also, a lot of these rules mean co-op dollars, obviously. That's the huge part of it. That I think is the crux of it, is the co-op dollars are going away because they do not like that portion of compensation either, because that's a big incentive. So they're turning off that money chain from, again, the carrier to the FMO and then down to the agent. There is a couple of pages that I wanted to look at real quick and pull up that I referenced here. I want to peek at. Oh, yeah. So these are some of the statements to give you an idea on what their mentality is, right? It has become apparent that the growth of MA and changes in MA marketing warrant further updates to ensure the appropriate guardrails are in place to protect beneficiaries and support competition. For example, shifts in the industry and resulting changes in contract terms offered to agents and brokers and other TPMOs for enrollment-related services and expenses warrant further action to ensure compliance with statutory requirements, and that the compensation paid to agents and brokers incentivizes them to enroll people in plans intended to best meet their healthcare needs, right? That is the major crux of this, that they're really oppressed. They say it over and over and over, but that is right off the top of it. And then there was another piece that I thought I was trying to point at here. They talk about the complaints, I guess, is really what I'm looking at. They hit that the number of complaints that went up. And this goes back, like they reviewed, I don't know if you know this, but this was referenced in here. I can't find his name at the moment, but they referenced a Inspector General report from 2006, or it was 2010, but it was looking at information all the way back from 2006. So they went back super deep, looked at customer experience, right? complaints, etc., and watched how, I guess, they rapidly increased, and they extremely increased in the last since 2021. They've received more than twice the number of beneficiaries and complaints in 2021 compared to 2020. So just that 1 year right there, it had doubled over, which is what caused them to jump in and start digging into all of this stuff. And they came up with those, at least according to them, these are the 12 things that they put in the ruling that are going to help reduce the complaints. And obviously compensation was right up at the top of their list. So it's ugly. I'm not a big fan of what they wrote in here. I will read some of this for you too. And this I think is where, again, some of the fear comes from. As we noted in the preamble in the 2 interim final rules published, all parties should be mindful that their compensation arrangements include arrangements with FMOs and other similar type entities. They must comply with fraud and abuse laws, yada, yada, anti-kickback statutes. And then this is where it references all the way back to 2010. Beginning as early as 2010, the Inspector General report indicated that plan sponsors may have created financial incentives that could lead FMOs to encourage sales agents to enroll beneficiaries in plans that do not meet their health care needs. Because FMOs, like sales agents, may influence Medicare beneficiaries' enrollment, CMS should add additional regulations. So yeah, back in 2010, that guy started complaining about it. And then now we have this huge monstrosity of a piece of regulations that's been dropped to us. CMS is concerned that the more recent increases in fees being paid to larger FMOs have resulted in a bidding war among MA plans to secure anti-competitive contract terms with FMOs and their affiliated agents and brokers. And if left unaddressed, their concern is that the bidding war allows can only be to get the distribution, right? Because the bidding war is the FMO. If the FMO can get the contract, he can push out all the business. The carrier gets all the business. Boom, agents, whatever. So the bigger carriers, right, they can pay these FMOs more to center their distribution around that carrier versus maybe a smaller regionalized carrier that can't afford to pay $1,000 an app or $1,500 an app, right? Their fear is it's going to push them out of the business. So they want to make sure it's a level playing field. So, and this is, again, I think this is where FMOs started to get really freaked out, is because they see the acronym FMO pop up in this document numerous times. And I don't blame them. I mean, there's a lot of interpretation in here that certainly looks like they would be wanting to go after them. But I'm going to give you the saving grace here in just a second. I got to find it again. I thought I had it bookmarked. This document is so big. Bear with me a second, but I will locate it. But it basically said that, hey, in this document, we are only addressing, it's like 593 is where I had it. It's only addressing it only addresses the compensation going to the broker or agent. And then it specifically says that while we are not ruling on that money yet, we're still looking at it. So they say all of this against the FMOs and just tell them, like, look, we're seeing all of this stuff that you guys are creating these major incentives, and you're being paid these major incentives to steer the business in one direction or other. And we don't like it because we feel like the beneficiary is not given the option to look at all plans fairly. All right. And agents are being favored to write in one direction or another. And then while they say, hey, while we're not addressing it in this rule, it's still on the table and we will talk about it in the future. So while the document is nasty, that final little piece that jumps in there says that, hey, we're not going after all the other money right now. We are only going after the agent broker. We want to make sure that the money that gets to them doesn't include all of these extra perks. So they're starting there. So all of the money that your FMO or your carrier gives you, other than the amount that gets deposited in your bank account when you write an application, you are no longer getting. You're not getting HRA money. You're not getting co-op dollars. I don't believe any of that is going to follow through. I've seen a few people say, I think co-op dollars will still be available. I don't know that they will. There may be a shifty way around, and I shouldn't say shifty, but there might be a good alternative to it where the carrier is buying the marketing themselves. And then because of the one-to-one rule, they're just giving it to you. Like here are all the leads that came from that marketing drop that we did, whatever it might be. Not sure. Not exactly sure how that's going to work, but that it could be a possibility. Other than that, I would say they're taking all of that away from you, and then they're giving you a $100 pop to make up for it. So they're saying, hey, we're going to bonus you $100 an app, but carriers and FMOs can no longer give you anything more than the FMV plus the $100. Right now, FMV is $611. So, for example, if this were in play right now, you'd make $711 instead of $611, and that would be the nicety for them taking away your co-op dollars, your HRA bonuses, event marketing co-op, all of those things that are now considered under the compensation rules. And again, that's why I led off at the compensation rules, because it kind of felt like that is really the crux of it. Apologize if I got a little side wandered in that document. It's 1,300 pages. It's ridiculous. I actually use ChatGPT to help me navigate my way around it and better understand it. Not that I'm trying to plug ChatGPT, but in these closing 8 minutes, if you haven't looked at some of ChatGPT's new features, like their privately trained GPT bots, such as the legal research bot that I use to help me pick my way through this document and kind of bullet point it and go through it. Super useful tools, man. I use it just about daily in some capacity. So it's a phenomenal tool. Don't knock it till you try it. But I wanted to kind of finish with this, right? There's been a lot of fear mongering over this article, and I apologize. I probably haven't seen a lot of the comments or questions because I've been buried in that, but I'll go through them as I'm chatting here at the end. But there's been a lot of fear mongering a little bit, I think, about it. I think there's been mostly a lot of panic. People really worried this is going to make an enormous impact in regards to your profitability as an agent or your opportunity as an agent. Because truthfully, if the profitability of the FMO gets wiped out, they're not going to be able to provide you Sunfire. Like, they're not going to be able to provide you Connecture. They're not going to be able to employ the people that pick up the phone and answer your call to help you when you have problems. So my buddy Justin Brock hit it on the head. I mean, even though they're not coming after your money in this document, at least it doesn't look like they are for the FMOs. Like those of you out there that are building a model that is based solely around profit off of admin fees, right? Overrides, even if we want to say that, like you might have an issue in the future. So you might want to look to pivot. And then there's been other agents that feel like this may wipe out the whole Medicare Advantage industry for them as an agent and broker. Like maybe it becomes not even profitable because these rules become interpreted in a way where the carrier now is having to pay all the money to the NMO, which is now capped at FMV plus 100. Like if they're saying that the override distribution structure that's normally built with the NMO, the FMO, the MGA, SGA, and all those different levels is now squeezed into that $100. And that's the new override over street. That's a much different interpretation than what I'm reading. But there is some language in there where someone could argue that. Like there were a couple of statements that were like all of the money and the full payment being made to one direction or the other, right? So it's only going to come from two, either through the from the Medicare Advantage company or through the FMO. So that could certainly make some damage to some agents where now we're back to 2014 commissions, where I think we were making $289 an app, or 2012, whatever that date was, where I think we're only making $289 an app. That would make it a little more difficult if our money got crushed, but that doesn't seem to be adding up. And if you didn't see this, in addition to the $100 bump that we're getting when we sell an MA plan, you're also getting $100 on PDP. According to that, it says PDPs have to in line with the rule. We have to create parity. So it said, so PDP compensation is getting $100 too. So we're apparently about to start getting rich writing PDPs. I don't know. Maybe I'm being facetious on that, of course, but it looks like we're going to get a big bump on that too. So While some of it is certainly not helpful, losing your co-op dollars for an agent that depends on co-op dollars, that's not helpful to you. And I think most of the document is going to benefit us as agents, especially short term, because next AEP, it looks like we're going to make more money on both MAs and PDPs. We're not going to receive co-op dollars, which also means we're not going to receive downward force from anybody. If you're in that kind of space where someone is downward forcing you to write business in any direction, you shouldn't see that. I don't know if anybody's experienced that. I'm fortunate that I don't. Although I do receive co-op dollars from certain carriers, that I know what their intention is. I know their intention is ultimately good nature, but it's ultimately to try to incentivize me to, when I write an app, to think of the person that gave me that check, and write the business for them. Bad news, I don't. I could care less. I'm just going to use it to market, generate leads. I'm going to write whoever the client wants because it's all the same money to me. Doesn't matter. If you want to give me money, give it away. So I'm happy about that because I don't depend on co-op dollars. I do appreciate them. But the last thing I did want to say, if for any reason, for some of you that feel like this might even wreck the entire Medicare Advantage industry, or you feel like this industry may not have a future because you think they're really going after the independent agent, understand, number one, all of these rules, by and large, only affect Medicare Advantage and Part D plans. Medicare supplement plans don't apply to any of this. Hospital indemnity plans don't apply. Cancer insurance doesn't apply. Final expense doesn't apply. Short-term care doesn't apply. Right? All of those plans are still available to sell and make a great living doing it. So if anything, they're basically going to take us back to the old days where all we did, because people had Medicare already, we couldn't sell Medicare to people. We've never been able to sell them original Medicare. All we did was go to them. We sold them the supplementary insurance that helped take care of and round out their Medicare. So they're regressing, if you will, back into that direction, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. Certainly Medicare Advantage plans do provide a broader scope of some level of health care for people versus those that may not be able to afford a Medicare supplement plan, but hopefully those people are getting picked up through Medicaid, but there is definitely a group in between that are going to struggle in that direction. So I know MA plans were maybe not necessarily originally designed to fill that gap of people, but even if they take MA plans away from us where you can't sell them or you can't profitably sell them, it doesn't ruin your Medicare opportunity, because they're not murdering 80 million people. It's not a Medicare genocide, for heaven's sake. All those people are still going to exist, and they're all going to need insurance, and they're going to need the supplementary products that round out their Medicare Advantage plan or their original Medicare plan. So it's just a worst case scenario. If they wipe out MAs for us, it's a small pivot. You're still got all the same products to sell for the most part, make a great living, and just go out there and be a professional. You're going to have to learn how to be a little better salesperson. No more zero premium enrollments just off of great marketing. You're going to have to learn how to sell more. But they're not taking the market away from you, the agent, and I don't believe they're wiping out the FMO this round. But it might still be on the table. So stay tuned for the future CMS proposals that will likely come out next year. Who knows, man? Maybe we'll get a new administration in and they'll regress some of this and flip it back to favor the small business. But certainly that doesn't seem to where it's at the moment. Anyway, that is my time. Have a great day. I appreciate y'all letting me ramble about this document. If you got any questions, feel free to hit me up. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time on Tuesday Training. Peace.